And I still can't imagine, to use your book's title, I still can't imagine the price of tomorrow. I still can't imagine this future. It's very hard for me to wrap my head around it.
So why would that be? We don't have a prior that has Bitcoin in it. None of our priors, no book, no anything that you've ever read besides the new stuff on Bitcoin has something that looked like Bitcoin. And then throughout all history, if you could co-opt money, you would steal that productivity at a slow rate at first and then a faster rate from every person on the planet. So it made sense that you would try to steal that productivity within your nation to gain control. It would make sense that you try to steal that productivity globally to gain control. And it makes sense that all throughout world history, with the winners writing the history books, that if you could co-opt money to gain that productivity that should flow to others, you would. Not you might, you would. So history is full of all of that. And then how do you get elected in that system? Because it's based on theft. You have to convince your population that you either have to take control of the population through dictatorship, or you have to convince your population that there's a greater enemy inside the borders to gain control. And once you gain control, you have to consolidate control, and because it's based on theft. It's not a democracy. And then once you do that, you have to create a bigger enemy outside your borders to convince your people to fight those people for freedom. And once you reset, and once you've won that or destroyed a whole bunch of things all over the world, then you have to, if you win that war, then you reset your currency under the new rules, and you say, we promise not to do it again. That's this entire world history through money. and Bitcoin, why can't we see what's happening with Bitcoin? Is because it's the opposite. It provides a path away from all of from all of that. And why it's so hard to see? Because nobody's ever seen it before. You have to intuit what's possible, what happens on the new rules. And I would say, Nico, a lot of what is happening is why this is so hard is people are trying to in all different levels, they're trying to impose the rules that they know on the new rules. And the new rules don't care. It's imposing this.
I'm getting chills while you say this, because in specifically the part where you talk about, because the way that you just described it means that every single war that we fought in the last century, hundreds of millions of people dying, is due to broken money. Is that a stretch?
World War I hasn't ended. It's all about this.
Okay,
that's what it's all about, and all of the deaths and everything else is all about this. So it's all about control for money, because you can extract the resources from the rest of the planet through printing more pieces of paper, and it becomes modern day slavery for billions of people on the planet operating under your rules of the system. And eventually people get mad and they go to war over that to try to reset that. And so, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I see some of the comments, the elite, it's like, no, all right, this may be true. But the beautiful thing about this is they only have control if you give them control. And you don't have to. You can just move all your time and energy with all of the beautiful people that are creating this network, and the world heals. And so for me, I went down this so far in the rabbit hole. I said, how could this be killed? And I realized we have a system that's about 10,000 times bigger than Bitcoin, that everybody will make stronger through their actions because they don't know, and they think there's a resolve inside the system. And so all of that is going to try to attack Bitcoin. And so when people look at some of the stuff that I've done and think about what I talk about now, they think I'm too positive on this network. I'm only positive on this network because once you see decentralized insecurity, how important that is for humanity, once you're Galileo and you've looked and you've seen the truth, you're not going back to the lie. And so there's too many people right now that know this truth. And I'm expecting everything to come at it. I can tell you, we can talk about some of those things right now that are coming after this, but they won't be successful because there's too many people, and there's more people every day that are learning the truth. And there's more people adding their voice to building the new system. So I would just kind of forget all of the nonsense from the other stuff, and just focus on building and focusing on spending more of your energy in the new system. You'll be happier.
Yeah, and I could attest to the happiness aspect. I've seen it myself individually. I've seen it with my wife. I've seen it with my God, my mom's the best, right? She thought I was absolutely crazy when I adopted Bitcoin in 2016 for the first 2 years, and now she's saying stuff like "end the Fed," even though she still doesn't know how to send a Bitcoin transaction. So, love you, Mom. But I've seen it. Every single person who's adopted a Bitcoin standard, all of a sudden they have optimism, they have hope for the future. So 100% agree with you. Now, what I'm curious about though, Jeff, is how are you so sure we're going to win? And I'll preface this with, so our daily live show, I have to be a slave to the news cycle and literally stay on top of every single little thing that's happening. So the attacks on Bitcoin from the regulatory aspect, you have Elizabeth Warren in the United States using the Wall Street Journal to try to convince the FinCEN, that Bitcoin is using to fund terror. So they're basically trying to throw everything at the wall, seeing what sticks. The current bill in Congress has 20 senators signed up to it. So how are you so confident, Jeff, that Bitcoin is going to rule the day? Like, couldn't you make an argument that victory is assured, but the transition could be bumpy?
Oh, there I agree with. Right. So what people are going to think in the short term, what is going to happen in the short term or in any year, I can't guarantee what happens there. I'm just saying why I'm so confident is we're the network. There is no they. And the more people know what this is about, the more people that are building towards it and are going to protect it and never going to go back. And so there's only we. And if you believe that we create the world we want to see, then why would you give your energy to somebody else who's trying to take that? That's my point. Now, what are some of the things we could expect? I'm going to give you. I'm not going to use names here. I'm not going to use anything else. But if you had lost the decentralization and security of the first layer, like if you lost that, and your nation states and your let's say other coins tied to stable coins that buy a lot of U.S. treasuries, wouldn't that whole system need to try to kill Lightning and layer 2s and layer 3s to be able to co-opt Bitcoin from the second layer? And there could be anything. Like, I'm just saying, if I was Dr. Evil and I knew what I do and I knew everything on how to keep my position on money, I would expect every single thing that's happening right now and more. And because then you could suppress Bitcoin from the second layer, suppress Bitcoin price from the second layer, and you could slowly transition people to use something else, and you could manipulate its price like gold's manipulated, because you'd suppress price through a derivative instrument. So if I knew that was going to happen, not might happen, was for sure going to happen because of greed and because all current currencies forever have always been co-opted, you can see through the lens of all the next steps that have to happen. And in that world, I would say a whole bunch of people right now that are talking about Lightning can't scale they've bought into the FUD that the system has to get them to buy into, to get them to worry about a scaling technology that is scaling. And then we'll scale into Fediments and others. And I, like we saw this. I saw what would happen years ago, and Lightning can't scale to 8 billion people. So you have to scale in layers, but it can scale a lot bigger than it is today, and for a long time, and it is scaling. So now you're starting to see all of these kludgy layer twos and nonsense things that if I was on the other side of Ledger wanting to co-opt a Ledger or trying to make a whole bunch of money on a token, if that was my intention, I would do it too. But it's not going to work. And why I know it's not going to work is part of it is we set up a fund a long time ago, and some of the companies we've already funded are too far along the road they won't stop. They won't be stopped now.